It is truly an honor and humbling to be in this room of experts, people with lots of passion, lots of wisdom, and lots of experience, so I thank you. I was kind of chuckling to myself as I was frantically texting at my seat and hoping that the stream of text would stop before I had to come up here. We have a new house guest at our house. She's in her, I guess she's finished with her second week now. She'll be starting her third week of living with us. And it's a young mother who happens to be Native American who was without any support system, and she has a 4-year-old daughter. So they're both living in our house, and the daughter bit through her tongue. So she was frantically, how do I know she's okay? So I'm trying to text her help in between. So that's the kind of stuff that happens in my life, and I welcome it because it keeps me grounded, and it helps me to learn and to grow, and I've learned and grown a lot with the people who have intersected with our lives, and I find them definitely masterpieces, as the Pope would say, in the fabric of life that is so vibrant and has so much potential. So if you want to. So, who are the masterpieces that challenge us? And who are the masterpieces deserving our utmost reverence and respect, that are challenging for us to love, to accompany? Is it that lazy student? I'd rather say the word the student who is lazy. Is it a murderer? Or the person who has committed murder? Is it the drooped pants walking down the street? Or is it just the young man with his pants drooped? Is it the tattooed girl? Or the young woman who happens to have countless tattoos? Is it the homeless beggar? Or the person who appears homeless begging on the street? I have to ask myself that. I think we all have to ask ourselves that question. Who are the masterpieces, the gifts of God, who challenge us? Next one. We are called to respect lives, individual women's lives, men's lives, children's lives, their physical integrity, their dignity, their rights, their reputation, their property. Can't imagine that being hard for anybody in here. I don't think any of us would violate somebody's property. But what about their ethic and cultural identity? Do we even know it? Do we really try to understand it? Their ideas, their political choices. Our society gives us a right to vote. We don't have to agree. Notice he doesn't say we have to agree.
Right.
The Pope says, but we must respect.
That's right.
And we are called, this is the challenging one, and the one that we spent a lot of time on Thursday at our office. How do we use all the forms of media, especially social media, to provide that respect in all those areas?
Creativity.
How do we do that? And we have to keep coming back and have to keep challenging ourselves to do that. Because that's where the next generation lives. That's why I have a young person like Josh on my staff. Next slide. No, don't go to the next slide. You already did. I loved when, now I gotta put my glasses on because I edit notes. Jerry Sereno talked about life and family. Are you still here? No? Because we are the Family and Respect Life office. I think that's a benefit. It's a huge benefit to be a dual office. because we have this church history of them being intimately connected. We had Pope John V in Humanae Vitae, who wrote, "The intimate bond between conjugal love and the generation of life cannot be broken." We had Saint Paul II in Familiaris Consortio, called the family the way of the church. It's through the bond of marriage and family that the Spirit of Christ is recognized and fulfilled and gives life to the rest of society. It's how we live holiness is in family life. Pope Benedict wrote of the truth of love between man and woman is only understood in the light of the crucified Christ. Thank God we have a crucified Christ. As we go through our challenges and our difficulties of embracing whatever befalls us, whether it's abuse when we were young, or parents who were addicted, or becoming homeless, or becoming unemployed, we can relate to the pain and the suffering of Christ, who brought life through that and models for us ways of doing that. And then, of course, we have Pope Francis, who speaks tirelessly of the importance of God's faithfulness and mercy. You hear over and over and over again. What words should we always be saying? I'm sorry. He also adds please and thank you. But I'm sorry. Our healing ministries are based on the mercy and faithfulness of God. And he also speaks of the hope. He speaks of the hope of the next generation who is embracing this higher calling. Next slide. So who do we, as the Archdiocese of Cincinnati, look to for our marching orders, so to speak? U.S. Catholic Conference of Bishops. We also look to the Catholic Conference of Ohio. And when we look to the Catholic Conference of Ohio, we're looking to our own Archbishop, because he's the chair of the Catholic Conference, Ohio Catholic Conference. So whatever they say is what he's saying. We look to the National Catholic Bioethics Center and the National Committee for Human Life Amendment. That doesn't mean that we don't look at other sources, but we look at other sources in the light of these sources, because that's what we are asked to do as church and by our Archbishop. Next slide. And very briefly, if we want to say two things we're about, we're about prayer. We're about encourage us to be prayerful people, to pray individually and as a staff. And we're also about building relationships and resourcing people. If you could flip to the next slide. So, what are we about in our Respect life specifically? We're about speaking the truth. What does faith and science and society tell us about life? And more science and social science is supporting the dignity and respect for life. What can we find that's out there in art and culture and the personal sacred stories of people? Because we are people of imagination. We must touch people's imaginations. And what else is beautiful besides all art, culture, and personal stories is the times that we gather, like today, And we gather to learn together, we gather to support each other, and we gather to pray together. We're about what is good. And yeah, good is what's in the eye of the beholder, and it's about attitudes. How can we transform our own attitudes and other attitudes that we embrace life so that we truly can be ambassadors for life? So, what does it mean to be about consistent ethic of life? It's about defending life regardless of a person's age, regardless of their gender, their health, their personal development, their race, their social status. It's embracing all people. Because if we aren't consistent, if we aren't embracing of all life, then our arguments quickly fall apart. If we can't say that, if we cannot say a murderer can achieve mercy and forgiveness of God, then how can we say a woman who was chosen to abort a child can receive the mercy and love of God? It's one message. And we need to be consistent in that message in every situation, so that as we should stand up to scrutiny. So we're challenging the Archdiocese of Cincinnati, especially Respect Life coordinators that are here, to promote 5 things over the next year. These are the 5 things we want you to promote. One is promote the healing ministry for persons who have been harmed and broken due to abortion. And in our office, we call that Project Rachel. We are asking you to be promoters of healing. Let people tell their stories. Listen to their stories and give them hope and share the mercy and love and forgiveness of God. I tell everybody that I ever talk, I just gave a principal boot camp. And I said, if every time you get your parents together, if you aren't giving them a chance to talk to another parent about what they're experiencing in their day-to-day life, they cancel the meeting. It's not worth it. Because you're not building relationships. It's so essential. People today need to hear their sacred story. They need to have their sacred story heard, and they need to hear others' sacred story. We're so hungry for it right now. We're asking everybody to do the spiritual adoption, to pray for the child in the womb and the mother, the father, whoever cares about that child, and reflect on the beauty of life. We're asking everybody at least once a year to do something with their Catholic social action, social justice, whatever group is in their church, to do one combined event a year. Because you know what? We need each other. What we do is crucial to each other. The dignity of all life makes social justice make sense. And you can't have social justice without upholding the dignity of all life. So to build that bridge, that's our challenge. Have one event this year.
Amen.
Also, we ask you to help promote the Respect Life Fund. It promotes pro-life work in the 19 counties of the Archdiocese of Cincinnati. The goal of the people who meet for that grant is to give something to everybody who qualifies, everybody who has a real need. And we especially are mindful of those who are not surrounded by a network of supporters. You know, the places that are like out in the boonies, out in Adams County or just out in the country. And they don't have a lot of churches or parishes or organizations around them. We're particularly sensitive to them and particularly sensitive to efforts that promote the dignity of all life. So we ask that you help promote that. There's never enough money. We can never give as much as people want. We wish we had more. So we just ask you to help promote that because as I know people in this room that have received it, the money goes to very good use. Trust us. And we do have priests at the seminary who help us whenever we have sticky questions about that. So you can be assured that the money is used well and justly. Next slide. So these are some of the things that we do, not all the things that we do. We help, our goal is to support Respect Life coordinators in the parish. We have a pregnancy coalition, which it actually involves the Cincinnati area and Indiana area and Northern Kentucky. It's we gather them, but it gives them an opportunity to talk about challenges and to learn from each other. And I've seen things like my copy machine, we got a brand new one, it works really well, but our old one still works. Anybody need a copy machine? They do that kind of stuff. So it's just really good networking that we sponsor. We sponsor Project Rachel. We have retreats. We have days of reflection for anybody touched. The retreats right now are for women. We're working on getting one for men. And the days of reflection are for anybody who's been touched by abortion. So it could be a grandparent, it could be a sibling, doesn't matter. And we have support groups as well as those. And also we've been challenged this past week, so you can pray for this effort, to possibly start one in a high school, a support group in a high school. So if you could pray for that effort, I'm sure it's much needed. It'll be some really brave students and trying to do the keep the confidentiality supreme will be our challenge. So we're looking into what that would take. So we could really use your prayers for that. Education, whatever it is, whenever anybody calls us, we can give you speakers, we can give you resources. You just ask, we have it all to be advocates, the best advocates that we can be in a non-partisan way. And we have a Respect Life Commission, and we also have, of course, the Archbishop, who he has no problem saying, come down, or come up, I should say. I'm on the 6th floor, he's on the 8th. Come up, we need to talk. So that happens. All these offices, we really do work with every single one of these offices. So we really have a great networking in the Archdiocese of Cincinnati. It's not uncommon for us, if you ask us to come out to speak to young marrieds and you call our office, it would not be uncommon for us to drag somebody from youth and young adult because they're the experts in young adult ministry to come with us. So that kind of things, we do things with vocations office. So all of the offices there listed, we really do work well together. We had Bishop Holly came a few years ago and gave a presentation on the abortion effect on the African American community, and so we did that with the Office of African American Catholic Ministries. So you want to go ahead and flip. All right, so I invite you to go to our website. We just recently redesigned it, so please, and I think we're not doing too bad. We have pretty good white space. I think we have under 7 choices. I mean, really, we're not doing bad. We're trying. I was really happy when you said that stuff. I said, yeah. Thanks to Josh. But they're organized under resources, especially for the Respect Life coordinators. There's a new section just for Respect Life coordinators in parishes of resources, and there's video resources, and there's print resources, and all kinds of stuff there. So really, encourage you to go there if you haven't gone there in the last couple of weeks, because it's really, I'm pretty proud of what we have. We are on, we do, well, go ahead and flip to the, do I have that on here? Oh yeah, I do. We are on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, and we're working on Pinterest any day. And so all of those avenues you can reach through our office also. But this is the message from the USCCB this year, and so
I'm still learning about that.
one thing I just want to say is contact us, and I had something that somebody said that was here, and something that David and Amber Lapp said reminded me of two things I wanted to tell you of resources that aren't directly, one isn't even on the website yet because we're just creating the flyer for it now, and the other one's been on there for a couple of years, but you might want to go back to it. 2 years ago we have a summit called Revitalizing the Domestic Church, and there's a website that has the materials from that summit called Christ at the Center. If you go to the CatholicCincinnati.org, right on the main page, bottom right, you'll see Christ at the Center. It has a talk by Helen Alvarez that very much supports everything that David and Amber said. So if you want to hear it from a different perspective, she's very articulate. I'm sure you guys know her well, and works a lot with Brad Wilcox, which they talked about. So, and she and Dr. Wilcox are both advisors to the U.S. bishops. So that would be a resource there. Another resource that we have that's brand new, because 3 of us just finished our certification for it. We have a program called Ministry with Families. It's a 12-hour course on how to be sensitive to families. And when you were talking about what are people's stories, this teaches you how to be sensitive to people's stories, how to learn their stories. Not only do you learn their stories, you get to learn their stories through your own stories. It's a great process about family systems and the systems that families interact with it. Whether it's a church system, a school system, or your organization is a system. So it's how do systems, what are the systems, how do they relate, how they connect to family life, and how can we use understanding the system to our benefit to move forward and to transform lives. So it's called Ministry with Families. You can watch for that. It's a 2-day or 12-hour, however you want to divide it. It doesn't have to only be 2 days. Training that we're able to provide. And so the next slide is how you can contact us. It's kind of small, but thank you very, very much. It was a pleasure to be here, and thank you for all the wonderful work that you do.